Let us now move on to take a new affix, krit affix, which is not very commonly used, but we do see it once in a while, so we should be familiar with it and at least know that such an affix exists and where to look in the Ashtadhyayi to find some more details. The sutram we'll consider now is 3.4.22, which reads Abhikshne Namulcha. Recall that we have already studied 3.4.21 in detail. 3.4.21 says Samana Kartrikayoho Purvakale, and the meaning of that sutram is the affix ktva is used following a verbal root which denotes a prior action relative to that of another verbal root, provided the agent of both the actions is the same. We have seen many examples of this sutram already. Now the anuvritti of the entire sutram, Samana Kartrikayoho Purvakale, comes into this sutram which we are going to see now, 3.4.22, Abhikshne Namulcha. Okay, so the vritti of this sutram 3.4.22 says Abhikshne Dyotye Samanakartrikayor Dhatvarthayoh Purvakale Vidyamanad Dhator Namul Syat Ktva. The sutram says cha, so that brings in the anuvritti of ktva also into this sutram. Anuvritti of ktva comes down from 3.4.18, which also we have studied. Alankhalvoho pratishedhayoho prachang ktva. So now this sutram 3.4.22 imposes another condition. In addition to the condition imposed by 3.4.21, this sutram 3.4.22 imposes the condition of Abhikshne. Abhikshne, of course, is Saptami Ekavachanam of Abhikshnyam. Pratipadikam Abhikshnya. The meaning of Abhikshnyam is continuous repetition. That's what Apte's dictionary says, continuous repetition. So the meaning of this sutram 3.4.22 now becomes to denote repetition of action, the affix namul or ktva may be used following a verbal root which denotes a prior action relative to that of another verbal root, provided the agent of both the actions is the same. And as already mentioned, the anuvritti of the entire prior sutram 3.4.21 Samana Kartrika Yoho Purvakale comes into this sutram 3.4.22. Let us take an example from the Bhagavad Gita, verse 19 from chapter 8, which reads Bhutagramasya evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate Ratriagame vashah partha prabhavatyharagame. Bhutva is derived from the verbal root bhu sattayam, which of course is the first verbal root in the dhatu patha. We add the affix ktva to the verbal root bhu by this sutram abhikshne namulcha. Remember that the sutram says cha, so the anuvritti of ktva is taken down from 3.4.18. So we're considering the case where the affix ktva is used. Derivation is straightforward. We take bhu plus ktva by the sutram 3.4.22 because here repetition of an action is to be denoted. Bhutva bhutva praliyate, which means having become again and again, having come into existence repeatedly. And this action is the earlier of two actions, the second action being praliyate, meaning it dissolves or subsides. And there is a common doer, bhutagramaha, the collection or the multitude of beings. That is the common doer of these two actions of coming into being and dissolving. So this is how all the conditions for applying 3.4.22 are satisfied. So we have bhu plus ktva. Remove the it letter, the beginning kakaraha of ktva gets the sanya by lashakvatadite tasya lopaha, and we get bhutva. Note that the sutram 7-11 shukah kiti stops the augment it, which would have been done by 7-35 ardhadhatukasye dvalade, because this verbal root bhu ends in a uk letter of the uk pratyaharaha. It is the ukaraha here, and the verbal root is followed by an affix which has the letter ka as a marker, so therefore 7-11 stops the augment it. And of course 115 kiniticha stops the gunadeshaha, which would have been done by 7-384 sarvadhataka ardha dhatakayoho. Now bhutva gets the pratipadika sanya by 1246, krit tadita samasascha and the avyaya sanya by 1140, ktva to sun kasunaha. Now let us consider the case where the affix namul is used by the same sutram 3422. So now we have bhu plus namul. Remember 3422 prescribes the affix namul as well as ktva. So here we now consider the case where namul is used. So bhu plus namul, remove the it letters, the ending lakaraha gets its sanya by halantyam, beginning nakaraha gets its sanya by chutu, and the anunasika ukaraha gets its sanya by upadeshe janunasika it 132, and finally tasya lopaha. So all three of them go away and we get bhu plus The purpose of having the letter L as a marker is only for intonation in the Veda. That doesn't affect us here. The letter U is only to help pronunciation, and the purpose of having the letter N as a it is to facilitate operations such as Acho Nyati 72115, which we're going to be using shortly, as well as 72116 Ato Upadhayaha, as well as 7333 Ato Yuk Chinkritoho, etc. Okay. So now we apply 72115 because the affix namul does have the letter n as a marker to bring in the vriddhyadesha. So we get bhau plus by 72115 acho nyati, and then finally echo yava yavaha, we replace au by av to get the form bhavam. Now bhavam gets the pratipadika sanya by krit tadita samasascha 1246 and the avyaya sanya by 1139 krinme jantaha, because namul is a krit affix which after removing the it letters ends in the letter ma. At this point sutram 814 nitya vipsayoho comes into play. It says that this form bhutva or bhavam has to be repeated in order to convey this meaning of abhikshnyam. Abhikshnyam cannot be conveyed by bhutva alone. It has to be repeated. So it has to be bhutva bhutva. Similarly, bhavam bhavam. So for that we need the sutram 814, which will be our next sutram.